On the war's second day in Iran, the situation across the Middle East appears to be quickly deteriorating. According to reports, thousands of airstrikes have already been launched by United States and Israeli forces in various parts of Iran at the time of this writing. And in response, Iran has launched a series of drones and ballistic missiles throughout the region. Cities and even civilian targets have been affected by the attacks. And within Iran itself, it has been confirmed that the person who has long led as supreme leader of the Islamic Republic is gone. With every passing hour, the war is intensifying and we have no time to waste. So if you're new to our channel, make sure to subscribe so you'll always be updated with videos like this. But before we start, if you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe so you'll always be updated with videos like this. Lay of the land. First of all, an important reminder. All the information we will discuss is based on the most reliable data we have as of mid-morning, March 2, local time in Iran. That is just after sunrise in Central Europe and past midnight in the eastern United States. And anything that happened after that day is not yet included in this report. But you can be assured we will be back soon for the next updates. Across the entire Middle East, the offensive against Iran is moving very quickly. To give you an idea of how big this is, according to U.S. defense officials who spoke to American media, within just the first 12 hours of the conflict, Washington had already carried out almost 900 strikes inside Iran. Meanwhile, according to Israeli sources, the first wave of Jerusalem's attack already used around 200 fighter jets that hit an estimated 500 targets. It is believed that the two countries hit targets in most of Iran's provinces. According to reports from Israel, Jerusalem and Washington allegedly divided their targets. America focused on Iran's military facilities and its nuclear facilities, while Israel focused on Iran's leadership and its capability to launch missiles. In a statement to global press, the U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, described their operation codenamed Epic Fury as the largest concentration of American military power in the region in a generation. In response, it is believed that Iran launched several hundred ballistic missiles, in addition to a large number of one-way attack drones. In Israel, Iran's attacks intensified overnight, with several waves of attacks recorded in the past 12 hours. There are also reports of direct hits, minor hits, or damage caused by missile debris falling on U.S. bases in Jordan, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and other locations. In Bahrain, the damage is especially visible. Several direct hits occurred, including a missile strike on the U.S. Navy 5th Fleet headquarters, which was reportedly almost completely destroyed. In recent days, it has become common, and a kamikaze drone hit a radar dome. In the early morning of March 1st, the American air base in Erbil, Iraq, a location controlled by Kurdish forces, was also hit using an unidentified type of weapon in what appeared to be a direct attack. Meanwhile, Qatar, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and other countries announced that they had successfully intercepted several incoming missiles. Both Israeli and United States forces have also managed to shoot down dozens, if not hundreds, of incoming targets so far. Just to be clear, the damage we've recorded at this point are still considered mild compared to what could happen in a war of this scale. Nevertheless, there is an important pattern being noticed in Iran's attacks. It seems that these are focused on radar installations or other U.S. surveillance systems, and the possible goal is to pave the way for larger missile strikes in the next rounds. While the full scope of the U.S. and Israel's offensive is not yet completely clear, we do have some confirmed details about the initial incursion's attack. The U.S. command confirmed that the American airstrikes were focused on Iran's military command facilities, airfields, and air defense systems. This means it's clear that the U.S. is trying to clear Iran's airspace and open the way for manned aircraft to enter in the next operations. In addition to that assessment, Israeli sources told their national media that they expect to achieve complete air superiority over Iran's airspace within the next 24 hours from the release of this episode. There are also unconfirmed reports saying that American F-35 stealth jets have allegedly shot down several Iranian MiG-29s, an event that, if proven true, would be considered one of the most significant air-to-air engagements of the 21st century so far. Another major development from a military perspective is the first known use by the U.S. of its own low-cost one-way attack drones, devices called Lucas that are designed based on the successful Iranian Shahed 136 drones. This clearly shows that Washington is studying Tehran's tactics and is ready to use the same kind of weapons against it. Right now, the battle is not only happening in the air and at sea. In the online space, Iranian state media and some telecommunications sites were also hit. A popular prayer app was hacked and replaced with a message calling on Iranian soldiers to take to the streets and help overthrow the current regime. In Iran's waters, satellite imagery confirmed that at least one Iranian warship was hit by the U.S. Meanwhile, it is believed that America's Kedron strike group is actively attacking in the region, targeting almost every naval facility within its reach. The type of targets chosen by the United States is also noticeable. Many of these are not symbolic or propaganda targets, but practical and strategic ones such as supply depots, missile storage sites, smaller military leadership compounds, and other facilities that are critical to Iran's ability to conduct tactical operations. This means it's clear that the U.S. has deep intelligence on the exact locations of Iran's important assets. At sea, there are also reports from oil tanker crews who heard explosions near K Island, a very important place where Iran exports about 90% of its crude oil. If these reports are accurate, this could be a major blow to Tehran's economy. Meanwhile, on the other side, Iran's proxy forces are also gradually getting involved. The Houthi rebels in Yemen have promised to resume attacks on ships passing through the Red Sea. In Iraq, a militia allied with Iran claimed responsibility for the attack on the U.S. airbase in Erbil last Saturday. There were reports on Sunday morning in Iraq that protesters near the Green Zone in Baghdad were trying to enter the United States Embassy. However, as of the time of writing, there is still no confirmation that they have breached the outer defenses or perimeter of the building. On the other hand, Hezbollah in Lebanon has already condemned the attacks against Iran, but so far they have not shown any signs that they are ready to directly join the fighting. As for the number of casualties, the U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, said on Saturday that there have been no reported casualties or combat-related deaths in the first 12 hours of the fighting. However, by Sunday morning, there were indications that this may have changed after a combat rescue helicopter was tracked flying from Bahrain to Qatar. Despite this, there has been no official announcement regarding any American casualties as of this time. In Israel, more than 100 people have been reported injured, most with minor injuries, and one woman was confirmed dead in Tel Aviv on Saturday night. According to the Iranian Red Crescent, the confirmed death toll has reached almost 201 and more than 740 people have been injured as of the night of February 28th, and these numbers are expected to rise in the coming hours. It is important to mention that the U.S. and Israel could not avoid civilian casualties. International media confirmed that a strike hit a girls' school in southern Iran, and according to officials on the ground, the death toll from that incident has reached 148, most of whom are children. The fate of the Ayatollah. Perhaps the biggest event in the war in Iran is the death of the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. According to Israeli media itself, Khamenei's main compound was hit by more than 30 missiles at the very start of the offensive. Iranian state media confirmed that he was killed inside his office, not in a fortified bunker where he usually hides during previous waves of airstrikes from Israel or the United States. In the following hours, Western media reported that a photo of Khamenei's remains was allegedly shown to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump as confirmation of his death. After almost a whole day of denial in the early hours of Sunday, Iranian state TV finally announced the official news that the Ayatollah is gone. Ali Khamenei served as the supreme leader of Iran since 1989. He was 86 years old when he passed away, but he was not the only high-ranking Iranian official who was killed in the offensive by America and Israel. His son, Mojtaba Khamenei, a powerful cleric who played an important role in managing the regime's funds abroad, was also reportedly among those killed. Although there is no formal successor to Khamenei, it has long been believed that his son is included in the short list of possible successors. Also killed with them were Iran's defense minister, the intelligence minister, the head of the military commands directly under the supreme leader, and the chief of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Several key intelligence officials, top advisors of Iran's nuclear program, and most of Khamenei's closest personal aides are also believed to be among those killed. According to earlier reports from U.S. and Israeli officials, it is true that a large number of Iran's top leaders were killed in just one strike, possibly because America changed its usual tactics. Instead of carrying out the attack at night, the first major strike was reportedly launched in the middle of the morning. It appears that the leaders of Iran thought they were safe at that time, especially since it coincided with Israel's Sabbath, and also the daily fasting period during the holy month of Ramadan. Because of this, it is believed that they were holding meetings in different locations when they were suddenly attacked. Nevertheless, it is important to emphasize that even though many high-ranking officials were killed, this does not automatically mean a regime change. Iran is not a country that as easily collapses when a powerful leader is gone. This is not a simple situation where you can just remove a strongman and expect the surrounding elites to immediately come to an agreement, just for their own survival. The structure of Iran's government is more stable and actually much more organized. It is said that the regime has long had wartime powers and detailed succession plans prepared, from the top down, even before the attacks began. As of now, the president of Iran, its foreign minister, and the head of the Iranian army are either confirmed alive or believed to be safe. Ali Larijani, who has long been identified by international observers as one of the possible successors, is also alive. Per existing procedures, Khamenei's formal successor is already appointed. The country's president, the head of the judiciary, and a high-ranking jurist are expected to form a council that will oversee Iran's transition to new leadership. However, the continuation of the regime goes deeper than simply changing leaders. The supreme leader and his allies do not enter into conflict without preparation. They distribute power during times of conflict, acting with the clear assumption that they might not survive, and even before offensives break out, they pass on to their designated successors the important information, connections, and orders needed for a transition. This means that regime change is impossible for the US and Israel. That's possible, but if it does happen, the elimination of Khamenei and his main allies would only be the first step. Their successors would still need to be pursued, and after that, those who follow them. And this would continue until the remaining part of the regime can no longer organize a proper and coordinated offensive. And even if that happens, stability is still not guaranteed. There is a real possibility that different factions within Iran will rise up. There could be a power struggle, possibly from the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, from the intelligence services, or from political factions that remain loyal to the current system. And this is where the so-called X factor comes in, the protesters in Iran. Right now, there are videos showing people gathering in the streets of Tehran, Shiraz, and other places, seemingly celebrating the disappearance of the Ayatollah. However, it's important to note that the size of this gathering has not yet reached the scale of the mass protests last January. While there are places where demonstrators have removed statues and continue to stay in the streets, there are also reports from ground forces showing that some security forces are firing at protesters in other areas. In other words, it's still unclear whether the movement in the streets will be enough to change the balance of power within Iran, or if it will be quickly suppressed. The attacks on the Gulf. From Khamenei's disappearance, we move west to the states of the Persian Gulf, where another crisis erupted at the same time. Even before the US and Israel began their campaign, Gulf countries like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and others were continuously coordinating with Washington. Their call was to avoid escalating tensions so that the region would not be directly affected by the attacks. There is really a lot at stake here. A large part of the world's oil and natural gas supply passes through here. If Iran targets the energy infrastructure in this region, it could hold the global market by the throat, cause a sharp rise in prices, devastate the economies of its neighbors, and force the United States to back down. But for now, it seems Iran miscalculated. On the first day of the exchange of attacks, Tehran did target the countries of the Persian Gulf, but they did not target the main oil and gas facilities. Instead, the attacks hit various civilian and infrastructure targets across the region, including the international airports of Kuwait and Dubai, the capitals of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi, as well as the National Security Agency of Bahrain. In Bahrain, there are videos showing an Iranian drone crashing into the side of two residential towers, and one of them was completely engulfed in flames by nightfall. Later, Bahrain's international airport was hit, and the next day, the Crown Plaza in Manama was struck. In the United Arab Emirates, it was reported that an Iranian drone threatened the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa. One was intercepted a few seconds before impact, while another crashed into a nearby civilian building. The famous Fairmont Hotel and Burj Al Arab in Dubai, symbols of luxury and global tourism in the region, were also reportedly hit by drones. What's clear here is that instead of directly targeting oil terminals and energy hubs that could disrupt the global economy, The attackers chose targets with strong symbolic and psychological impact. And the question now is this just a warning or the beginning of a wider escalation of the war? Jebel Ali port was also hit after being struck by debris from intercepted missiles and drones, while a naval base in Kuwait was directly attacked. In the United Arab Emirates, a Pakistani citizen was confirmed dead. According to officials of the government there, a total of 137 missiles and 209 drones targeted the country before Saturday night, and most of them were intercepted by their air defense system. If you look at it, it's not that hard to understand the possible logic behind Iran's move. If they expected an attack on their energy infrastructure, the Gulf countries likely also reinforced defenses around oil fields and refineries. This means that those targets might be harder to hit. Meanwhile, civilian buildings and economic centers have weaker defenses. It is clear that Iran's focus is to target the financial power centers in the region, especially Dubai, a city that has long been considered safe, stable, and a symbol of progress in the heart of the Middle East. Through such attacks, Iran could also destroy the image of security and stability that has been the foundation of this economy. And on the propaganda side, Iran could also claim that their real target is the U.S. military installations in the region, and that the damage suffered by the Gulf countries is just unavoidable collateral damage in a wider war. By creating an immediate threat to the Gulf countries and striking targets they may not have prepared for, Iran is likely hoping to intimidate them. Tehran's calculation is probably that if the Gulf states panic and feel intense fear, they will turn to Washington and put tremendous pressure on America to back down. In other words, Iran might be thinking that enough fear and chaos right at the doorstep of the White House will force the U.S. to back down. But reality turned out differently. Instead of causing division and panic, Iran's attacks seem to have brought the Gulf countries even closer together. The states that had tensions with each other in recent months are now starting to unite against Tehran. In particular, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have clearly expressed their alignment with the goal of protecting the region at any cost. And the other Gulf countries have followed suit with this stance. Even the president of Turkey has spoken out. He condemned Iran's attacks, a clear show of support for the strong response of the Gulf countries. Although there is no official statement from Saudi Arabia about this, anonymous sources from the Middle East told global press that it is becoming more likely that Riyadh will allow the United States to use their territory to continue the offensive. What happened appears to be the opposite of what Iran expected. It's long been clear the Gulf states chose to stay out of the war. But because Tehran chose to attack them, any kind of settlement or appeasement with the Iranian regime now seems to be off the table. Although the Gulf countries do not often engage in direct warfare, they have significant air power, and now they also have enough reason to directly confront the threat from Iran. The Strait of Hormuz. Finally, let's take a look at the Strait of Hormuz, the crucial sea passage that serves as the main route for ships carrying oil and goods out of the Gulf to different parts of the world. According to security officials from the European Union, since yesterday, Iran has been broadcasting messages saying that supposedly no ships will be allowed to pass. Based on ship tracking data at the time of writing, most commercial vessels have stopped their routes, returned to port, or are just waiting in the Gulf of Oman. Iran has not yet officially confirmed the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, and there is also no indication that Iranian vessels have mined it. However, in practice, it seems that global ship insurers have already done this for them. They canceled insurance policies and raised prices for any ship that tries to pass through. For all practical purposes, the strait seems to be closed while threats continue to be issued from the coast of Iran as an added deterrent. If this situation does not change by tomorrow, we will see the effects of this war on the global market. For now, a combination of market anxiety and pressure from the Gulf states could still encourage the U.S. to create conditions to reopen the Persian Gulf and force Washington to reduce its operations. However, Iran may have already ruined that opportunity for itself. And if the Gulf states calculate that it is more important to continue eliminating the threat of Iran in the region, the reaction of the market may no longer be that important. For now, this is the main development in the escalating crisis in the Middle East. The overwhelming air power of the U.S. and Israel, Iran's widespread retaliation across the region, and the loss of Iran's supreme leader. In the coming days, we will return to provide the latest updates on the situation. So if you want to stay updated as events unfold, make sure you're subscribed to our channel so you can follow everything And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again in our next video.